You're listening to Forecast, the marketing podcast for professional services leaders. If you're looking to generate more leads, win more deals, and take your firm to the next level, this show is your shortcut. Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Ahmed Munawar, and we have a Mr. Kevin Pettie on the show today. Kevin is a LinkedIn lead generation expert, and I asked him to come on the show to talk about the bread and butter of your LinkedIn strategy, which is your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile is like your own little personal homepage on LinkedIn, and I think there's a pretty strong argument to make that it's just as important, if not more important, than the homepage on your website. Because if you want to convert relationships on LinkedIn into warm leads for your services, your LinkedIn profile has to do a number of things really, really well. And Kevin is going to walk us through what those things are in this interview. Show notes to this episode are at forecast.fm/Kevin. That's forecast.fm/Kevin. Before I let you go, you may have heard that I've recently launched another podcast. It's a daily podcast. It's called Marketing Out Loud. And every single day, you're going to get a short 5-minute episode from yours truly, where I'll share in the trenches business advice and marketing advice, the things that I'm learning from growing my practice and helping my clients grow theirs. You can check it out at marketingoutloud.fm or by typing in Marketing Out Loud in your favorite podcast player. With that, here's Kevin Pettie. Kevin, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Ahmed, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
So we're talking about LinkedIn profile optimization today. And to kick this off, Kevin, I think what would be helpful is if you could kind of, walk us through why LinkedIn needs to be approached differently for somebody who's trying to generate business off of LinkedIn, as opposed to somebody who's got their profile on there for, career building purposes or for employment purposes.
Yeah, that's a good distinction, and really that's what it is. If you look at a lot of profiles on LinkedIn, you'll see it's like a digital resume, which is great if you're looking to attract job opportunities. If you're looking to build your business and using your LinkedIn profile as more of a marketing tool, you just have to build it in a different way. You need to get away from the specific tasks and that you do for a company, and more how what you do and what your company does adds value to your clients.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the challenge here. Is when LinkedIn first launched, that's how we all approached it, right? It was a digital resume, and I'm pretty sure I just kind of copied and pasted my resume over to LinkedIn and called it a day. But from a client perspective, nobody cares that you improved performance efficiency by X% on this and this project. I mean, they might care, but not everything on your resume is necessarily relevant to clients that you want to attract.
Correct. Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
So let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of profile optimization. And I think this is really important for folks who are listening because, we could talk a lot about LinkedIn, and we do talk a lot about LinkedIn. I've done interviews on LinkedIn before. I've got more coming up. I talk about it quite a bit. But, everything that you do on LinkedIn is going to be to no avail if your profile itself is weak, right? This is really kind of where the rubber hits the road, isn't it, Kevin?
Absolutely. If you're maybe using LinkedIn as a proactive lead generation, you're reaching out to folks and you've got a certain value proposition that you're going out to them with, and you're looking to connect with them, they're going to hit back on your profile. And if they see a disconnect, for example, your value proposition doesn't match up with what they see on your profile, it's kind of over and done there. There's so much information coming at people so quickly today that they're not going to spend that extra 5, 10, 30 seconds to figure out, okay, Ahmed reached out to me, he's talking about how he can help me grow my business, but when I look on his profile, I don't really see how he can do that. They're just not going to look around, right? They're just going to, not accept it or ignore you.
Yeah. And the way I look at this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and whether you agree or disagree, is I think your LinkedIn profile is in many ways a lot like your homepage on your website. When folks land on your homepage, what you'd like them to do ideally is take some kind of action, right? Fill out your contact form, request a meeting or a phone call, download a PDF, whatever it may be. Like you don't want them to go to your homepage, say, oh, that looks nice, and then leave and never come back. You want them to do something. In my mind, the profile is the same thing, right? They read your profile. You want them to, maybe go to your website. That could be one call to action. Maybe respond to your message. But it's got to get them to do something, doesn't it?
Yeah, I totally, totally agree. You could look at it as a almost like a landing page, but yeah, you've got to create some interest. You've got to create that question in their mind that I think there's something here. I wonder what they can do for me. I'll reach out to them, or I'll accept that connection request and see what the next step is. But yeah, I agree with that. You want them to take action.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. I like what you said there. The goal is, I think there's something here. That's really where you want to get, because you can't say everything on a LinkedIn profile. No. In the end, it's you do have to keep it short and sweet. I mean, you're forced to keep it short and sweet by LinkedIn, so you can't say everything. You want to intrigue enough and create enough curiosity that they think there's something there and they're interested in taking the next step, whatever, even if that's as small as accepting your invitation or replying to your message. That's the beginning.
Right. And I think you wanted the job is to create questions, not try to go too in depth in answering those questions for them. You want them to, you know what, I like what I see here. I've got some questions, and that's going to force me to connect with this person or give them a call because I'm interested. I need to engage further, and that's what we want. We want to engage with these folks.
Excellent. So, Kevin, let's jump into some of the kind of the nuts and bolts of the LinkedIn profile. What's the first thing that you recommend people look at and fix when it comes to their profiles?
Sure. Great question. So the first thing is your picture. It's not Facebook. We don't need to have. It's great that you caught a 30-pound salmon on the Fraser River, but it's not really a picture you want to throw up on LinkedIn. So
I don't know. I don't know about that, Kevin. I mean, unless you're a salmon fishing consultant.
Yes, I stand corrected. If your business is linked to the salmon industry, then that's a good picture. So it's a good point. I gotta give you 1 point for that one. But generally, you don't want beach pictures again, unless you're a beach consultant. And if that job's available, I'd love to get I'd love to get that one. So a nice clean headshot, professional, close up is great. I see not as much as there used to be, but people will put company logos up on their LinkedIn profile. And for me, that creates a disconnect right away. People really want to see who they might be connecting with. So I think you're missing an opportunity if you don't have a picture, or you have maybe the wrong type of picture that conveys the wrong type of message, or you're using a company logo.
One of my pet peeves here is when people take other pictures and they crop out like a headshot. And it's so obvious that you did that. Like one of the ones that I see a lot is, somebody goes to a wedding and because, they're all decked out in their suit and tie at a wedding. Right. And they think, oh, hey, here's a good opportunity for me well, they probably don't even think about it in advance. Right. They look at the pictures afterwards. And then when they realize, oh, I need a picture for LinkedIn, then they crop out like a little headshot. But there's like a stage in the background. There's all this stuff that's obviously not very professional. And it's so obvious that you crop that picture from somewhere else and it makes you look like an amateur, doesn't it?
It does. And that being said, there's different industries portray different, I guess, levels of, even professionalism is not the right word, but there are if you're in finance, if you're in insurance, those tend to be, for gentlemen, suit and tie, for women, professional dress. That seems to be the accepted norm. So if you've got the wedding shot in there, you're going to stand out, not in a good way. If you're, you see some maybe funkier type pictures for marketing and advertisement industry, internet. So there is some variance there, I guess, depending on the industry that you're in. You just don't want to stick out in a bad way, really.
Yeah, well, what I'm seeing is that you don't necessarily have to have like a clean, solid color background either. I mean, I see people that do have outdoor shots or, kind of office shots with a background, but you can tell it's done professionally because the background's kind of a little bit faded out and their face is really, really clear, and the face is the focus. You can tell that's done professionally, right, as opposed to something somebody took on their iPhone.
Right. And I do agree with that. Actually, that's more of a shot that I have on my profile. Although I would tell people, you still want the nice clean headshot, and I'll say, well, what about yours? Well, I do agree with that.
Yeah, and the headshot I think is important also because the picture's only so big on LinkedIn, right? That applies to all social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, if you use it professionally, right? The picture's only so big. So if you've got like a shot from the waist up, no one's gonna be able to see your face. And the face is where the action is, right? Nobody wants to see your biceps, frankly. Right?
Absolutely.
The face communicates so much.
It's the face. That's right. It's your face. And that's your first crack at generating engagement, right? If people see something they don't like for whatever reason, then that's a disconnect right there. If everything kind of lines up, then they'll look a little further. So it is more important probably than a lot of people maybe think about, or if they think about it at all.
Okay, great. So I've got my picture all lined up. I look professional. What's next, Kevin?
So what another thing you'll see on profiles is the headline. So underneath your summary, and I'm going to pick on your profile, Ahmed, because I think it's awesome. I'm not and I'm not trying to butter you up. I just the way you've got yours laid out is the way I like to see it. It's the way I tell my clients, pretty much to lay it out.
Well, hey, listen. Frankly, I mean, if you're going to pick on me, pick on me. Don't hold back. I mean, I like putting myself on the hot seat in these interviews because I'm not doing everything right. So by all means, criticize and critique.
So here we go. So one thing that I will see on people's LinkedIn profile is they'll put their title, and then they'll put their company name, which it doesn't do. The company name is not going to do a lot to generate engagement. But if I click on yours, so I'll see Chief Marketing Officer. So I have an idea through my own filter of what I think it is you do. But then you've got this killer line. I help B2B professional service firms generate more leads so they can win more business. That tells me everything I need to know to say, I want to find out. I'm going to invest a little bit more time. I love lines like that. You're saying who you work with and what you help them do. And that's going to generate engagement. So if you're putting in, vague, just kind of filler. If people are putting in anything at all, if you put in, you could have put in Chief Marketing Officer, lead generation, business development. It's just not going to have the same level of engagement. I think actually, some folks will get excited when you help firms like mine generate more leads and win more business. Exactly what I need. I'm going to look a little deeper.
Yeah, and I think, if you're, again, going back to the first question that we discussed, is if you're there just to build your career, you're employed at a company. I mean, I think there is still an argument to have a value driven headline, but maybe the job title and the company name is enough, especially if it's an impressive job title and an impressive company name that people recognize, and then maybe that's enough, right? But if you're selling services, if you're selling consulting, if you're an accountant, you're a lawyer, nobody cares that you're partner at, Joe Schmo firm, right?
Right.
That means
right.
nothing, right? But what they care about is, how are you going to help me? So in my mind, there's two things that need to be in this headline: who and what. So in my case, it's who is B2B professional service firms.
Right.
If you're not that person, then you're going to ignore me, and that's fine. Right. I actually want you to ignore me if you're not that person. But if you are that person, then when you see those words in my headline, and it could be more specific, right? I mean, I think there's an argument to dial it down to, consulting firms or accounting firms or law firms. I'm still a little bit broader than that, but there is an argument to go more specific, and that's a whole positioning exercise. But the point is, you want your buyer to see themselves in your headline, so they know that you're at least somebody of relevance to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Any other tips you want to offer as far as the headline goes?
No, I don't think so. I would just maybe advise folks to really think about who they ideally do their best work for, and what problem they solve for those folks. And we'll get into that as we go down to the summary page. But I think if you can get that, underneath in your heading there, that's a good start.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm thinking about a client of mine. They're an accounting firm. They've got 3 partners, and they have about 6 target audiences that they work with, which is not terribly rare for an accounting firm or even a law firm, right? It's rare to find an accounting or law firm that works with just one profile of customer. So they've got about 6 target audiences. Among them, I would say 3 are kind of primary. But the other challenge is that then they've got 3 partners who all do a little bit of everything. They don't necessarily specialize in an audience per partner. For somebody like that, how would you recommend they craft their headline?
Well, you can make it a little more vague. You can, even when you say professional services firms, that covers a whole wide range of businesses. You can put in manufacturing companies as a title. Again, that can cover quite a broad range of companies. Technology is another one. I guess you would just need to maybe find a term that's a little more broad that would cover all those subsets under it. That's how I've done it on my profile. I talk about professional services, manufacturing, and technology related companies. To me, that really, we don't do much work in the government or nonprofit, so we're pretty much covered by those 3 terms, I feel.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. So moving beyond the headline now, I guess what appears right below the headline is the profile summary. But before we jump into the profile summary, I'm a little curious about, where you think the profile summary, where you think it lands on the list of priorities, because in the LinkedIn redesign, it's hidden, isn't it? You have to click on see more to drop it down. So how important is the summary now on the new LinkedIn?
I think it's still very important. I think you really you get to tell your story, right? It gives you kind of a blank canvas. It is a little harder to find. I do admit that. But if you don't build that out, then you're somewhat forced to fill in the blanks, right? You're filling in the format that they've prescribed for you. So the summary piece I like, because you get to build it the way you want to. So I still think it's very important.
Okay, so let's jump into that. As far as the summary goes, I mean, this is where you kind of have a blank canvas, right? Like you said, it's very different from the job experience
Right.
section or the skills or the interests. I mean, this is where you could write whatever you want. How do you approach that?
Yeah. So what I like to do, I like to build it out this way, in 5 sections, and it's business problems I solve. So that's the first part. And if I look at go back, I look at your profile. You've got so I might title it "Business Problems I Solve." You've got what I do. So you help B2B professional services and consulting firms build actionable marketing plans that generate more leads so they can win more business. So I may just rephrase that slightly and just talk a little bit more about what are the specific problems that you solve for them. So instead of saying win more business, it might be, work with companies that have flat revenue growth to increase revenue growth. I am bad for making things up on the on the spot. I apologize for that, but it's just I like to talk about trying to find those hot buttons for them. Right? What problems do we know these folks have, and how do we solve them? So that's the first part I like.
And I think it's a really good point. And I'm reading mine now too, and I probably haven't looked at it with a critical eye in the recent past. So this is useful. Yeah, the problem's not entirely clear, right? Sure, I help you build a marketing plan, but why do I need a marketing plan? What right. problem or pain do I experience in my day-to-day work that solves, right? So stalled revenue growth, lack of new leads or new opportunities. You don't know where your next client's coming from. I mean, those are all problems that I can relate to that will
right.
highlight the need for a marketing plan.
Right. And how I do it under my profile is I don't really try to make it into a paragraph. I just throw here's the business problems I solve: lack of leads and sales opportunities, inconsistency with lead generation and nurturing, absence of a clear plan for business development and sales growth. So if you know the value you bring to your clients, and you know what hot buttons brought them to you, and it's really just getting those hot buttons, I think, up there, because people are going to read. They've already seen your picture. They like that. They read your the little headline underneath. That got them, to dig a little more. And now you're hitting hot buttons for them. So that's how I like the first thing I like to have in the summary.
Yeah, and I think it's important also as you're reading this, and I'm trying to do this now as I look at mine. Put yourself in the buyer's shoes, right? So like you said, They're going to see your picture. They're going to read the headline. And now, you don't really have their attention yet. Don't make the mistake of assuming you have their attention. You really just bought yourself kind of a second glance, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully they click on the see more link there to expand your profile summary. And then boom, you want to hit them with the business problems. And if they have those problems, then you're deepening that attention now. So hopefully they continue reading the rest of the summary.
Yeah. I always look at it as you're trying to buy, another 5, 10, 15 seconds of their time. So each step you take them through, you're trying to buy a little bit more of their time, and then the further they get through, then the more engaged they get. That's how I look at it.
Great. So business problems, you want to certainly have some information there on your services. What else should you include in the summary?
Yeah. So once we go through the business problems you solve, the next part I put in would be the services, and I usually frame that as what I do, right? So what I do, I help companies scale and grow by designing and implementing done-for-you lead generation and business development programs. And then, you can put in it's okay to list your services there. You wouldn't list 50, but you'd list the key services that you can provide. And then beyond that, I go back into, again, who I work with. So, as you mentioned, people need to know that it's important to them to know that their industry, whether it really is important or not. So sometimes you work with clients and they'll think their problems are only apply to their industry, but they really don't. But in their mind, it's very important that they feel that you know their industry. So I put in that who I work with, and then below that. Now, if you have so under who I work with, and then the next part I like to put in is what makes you different. So there's lots of consultants. I mean, I'm a consultant. You're a consultant. there's lots of us out there, and what makes us different? Why would someone want to engage with us? Why would someone want to become a client? We've got to do something better, different than the other folks that we're competing against, or we're not going to win that business. Under that piece, if you have testimonials, that would be a good time to maybe throw in some written testimonials. Now, I know under your profile you have some awesome video testimonials, which we can talk about later. You get down into the media section, that's where you've added yours, but it wouldn't hurt to add in some of the. I think you've done that as well. You put in some of the written testimonials.
Yeah. So what I did is I attached the videos in the media section, which I think I think that's important. Otherwise, they're on my website, but if you're on LinkedIn, you're right there, and the media is useful because it's visual, right? Yeah. So at the bottom of the summary, underneath all the text, you've got these visuals, which are useful. But what I did is I grabbed, a quote from each of them, and I put them right there in text as well.
Right. And I think I think people can be a little skeptical when they see the quotes, but when they click on your media and see the video, those are so powerful. It's the social proof. I kind of liken it as when you start a new relationship with someone, the force fields are up. They're not going to really let you through. So it's our job to kind of lower that force field and building so that they can, that we can start to engage with them and they can hear what we have to say and they'll share information. So by creating that social proof, it's a great way of, getting that force field down and getting them to be more comfortable with us.
Absolutely. Listen, Kevin, we're running up on time here. I know there's a lot that we could cover on this topic, and we certainly haven't exhausted it. But are there any other kind of remaining tips or advice that you wanna give to close this out?
One. There's probably. I apologize because maybe I talked a little, I rambled on a little bit more about a few things than you would have liked in it. But one thing that I like to drive home to clients is make it easy for folks to get a hold of you. And I like to put that right on my LinkedIn profile. Phone number, email. You've created interest. You've got them on your profile. They're interested in what you do. Make it real easy for them to connect with you from there. Don't hide your contact information. Don't make them dig for it. I put it right in my summary. If you like what you heard and you want to get a hold of me, let's talk. Here's my phone number. Here's my website. Here's my email.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people sometimes forget because it's social media and a lot of times people feel like they need to have some kind of a barrier between them and the people that they engage with. But remember, this is really, at the end of the day, this is good old fashioned relationship building. And when you're building relationships, you want people to get in touch, right? You want them to email you, you want them to message you, want them to call you. That's how you know that it's working. So putting up barriers between you and the buyer, it just doesn't make any sense. Make it as easy as possible. I think that's really important. Yeah. Kevin, listen, I know we can go on all day, but you've got stuff to do and I've got stuff to do. So we're going to leave it at that. I think we've covered, quite a lot of the fundamentals. Can you tell us where people can connect with you if they want to learn more about what you do?
I'd be happy to. They can check out our website at B2B, and that's numeric 2. So B2B-lead-generators.com. My phone number, I'm happy to hear direct from folks, 519-823-6247. Email is just Kevin at B2B-lead-generators.com.
Great. And we're going to drop a link to your website in the show notes, as well as a link to your LinkedIn profile, which I know has all that information there as well. Kevin, thanks so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Ahmed, my pleasure, and thank you so much. I think you're doing a good job for your clients. I like listening to a few of your interviews. I think the one I'm on is probably going to be my favorite, but I enjoyed the other ones as well. So thank you so much, and keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate that, sir.
An awesome job.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All righty, you take care.
Hey, it's Ahmed here again. Before I let you go, there are two things I want you to do. The first is, if you like what you hear, go ahead and subscribe to the show on iTunes or Google Play by visiting forecast.fm and clicking on the relevant link. While you're at it, please do leave us a rating or a review because it helps more people discover the show. The second thing is I want you to grab my free course on the 5 Ps of lead generation for professional services firms. Inside the course, you will get a step-by-step framework to help you generate a flood of new business for your firm. The course is 100% free of charge, and you can get immediate access at 5leadgen.com, and you can spell out 5 or use the number. Either one works. That's 5leadgen.com. Thanks for listening.